So I welcome to the floor Roula Bachtalia, Director of the EGG and Head of Venture Banking at Eurobank, Krief, President of French Tech, Spyros Arsenis, Head of Innovation at Development at National Bank of Greece, and Aristeidis Samitas, Vice-Rector for Finance and Development at the University of Athens. And for a practical purpose of this workshop, I will be moderating this workshop. The idea is to be very technical and very practical. So we will have a short presentation of Roula Bachtalia, if needed, to present what Eurobank is doing at the level of the ecosystem. And we will have a discussion about how to do technology transfer and how to finance innovation from the private side. Perhaps we can start with your short presentation.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. It's really a great privilege, I would say, to join you at this pivotal Research and Innovation Forum to explore together the evolution of the global innovation ecosystem and the funding and financing opportunities we have in Europe. Today, we meet at a pivotal moment for the startup economy. The global venture landscape in 2025 crystallized a new reality: capital concentrated on fewer and larger winners. The US absorbed 70% of global VC money, driven by unprecedented AI mega deals, and generated 53 billion euros in IPO proceeds, reinforcing its leadership in innovation and liquidity. More than half of global VC dollar flowed into AI. Europe lagged in liquidity due to fragmentation and slower harmonization of policy and markets. At the same time, geopolitical realignment shifted capital toward trusted jurisdictions. It is worth mentioning that grace to low tuition fees, European universities attract great talent, creating also a culture of safety, giving space to people to grow. However, the 28th regime, alongside the European Innovation Act and the Scale Up Europe Fund, will create a true single market for innovation, simplifying company formation, harmonizing stock options and insolvency rules, and unlocking cross-border capital. These measures, delivered as regulations, will reduce fragmentation, accelerate scale-ups, and strengthen our industrial competitiveness. Oh, okay. Maybe this is something that we cannot see here, no worries. Referring to strategic key themes in defense and dual-use systems, Europe stands at an inflection point. Between 2020 and 2025, European defense tech VC funding rose from approximately $1 billion to $4 billion, propelled by later stage and growth rounds, banking AI-driven drones, unmanned ground vehicles, sensors, space logistics, and quantum computing. Also, sustainability is no longer just an environmental imperative, it is a strategic economic policy. In 2025, global VC money reached roughly $512 billion, but capital concentrated on AI and a select group of champions, leaving climate and resilience technologies comparatively underfunded. On the other hand, life sciences were the second largest vertical in Europe in 2025, with 13 billion euros raised across biotech and healthcare companies, highlighted by mega deals like Isomorphic Labs, Aura, and a few more, a clear evidence that biotech and health tech remain powerful engines of innovation and investment across the region. European scale-ups are the powerhouse of our economy, yet too many promising startups stall at the scale-up stage because of the persistent financing gap, forcing talent and technology to flow abroad. Europe must seize this historic opportunity, act decisively, implement swiftly, and ensure that founders and investors can grow world-class companies across industries right here in the European Union. Innovation is no longer the exclusive domain of superpowers like the US, China, or else. Countries like Switzerland, the Nordics, and Taiwan have proven that long-term commitment to R&D, intellectual property, and infrastructure can yield global impact. Likewise, Greece's ambition to lead, particularly in niche sectors, is valid and actionable. What matters now is coordinated execution. Over the past decade, Greece has moved from the periphery to the radar of international investors, demonstrating that resilience, talent, and collective vision can redefine national potential. Back in 2012, the Greek startup ecosystem was still in its infancy. However, today it encompasses more than 1,000 active startups, employing over 8,000 professionals with an ecosystem value projected to exceed 12 billion euros by the end of this year. We have also seen positive movement in international ranking. According to the 2024 Global Innovation Index, Greece rose 8 places, now ranked between 42nd and 47th among 133 countries. However, convergence with more mature innovative economies requires sustained and focused effort. Today, Greece represents an opening. In 2025, our innovation ecosystem raised 732 million euros across 95 deals, with growing activity in grid modernization, water optimization, circular manufacturing, and industrial energy efficiency. Proximity to trade corridors and unique geography create natural markets for scalable solutions. But scaling infrastructure and hardware-heavy climate solutions require different capital structures like hybrid equity and debt, longer tenors, and revenue-backed instruments. Greece is aligning with this European arc. Dual-use innovation is on the rise. Institutional capacity is maturing, and ecosystem dynamics are shifting toward larger rounds and scale-ups. Yet what is required beyond talent and ideas is disciplined industrial capital. We are seeing more and more innovation giants to collaborate with Greek startups and scale-ups. We are seeing later stage activity and the broader use of venture debt that supports startups to sustain momentum between funding rounds. And before talking about our financing tools, I will take a few moments for a quick overview about Eurobank. For those who are not aware of where we stand as a group, for a scale perspective, Eurobank operates with a balance sheet of 110 billion euros and generates over 1.3 billion euros annual profitability. Our payout ratio of roughly 55% of profits reflects confidence in our capital position. And also, as 50% of profits are now come from international operations, this indicates diversification and experience beyond a single market. Eurobank has presence in 5 countries: Greece, Cyprus, Bulgaria, Luxembourg, UK, with an office in London. And as we speak, we have a representative office in Mumbai, in India. And we also have plans within 2026 for a representative office in UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Israel, hopefully. At the same time, we're continuously investing in the future of the platform. Over 800 million euros has been invested in technology and AI, allowing us to deliver a modern customer experience and to operate with speed where it matters. At Eurobank, we craft a comprehensive strategy that supports founders from ideation to scale up and then to sustain growth. A journey that it takes more than 7 to 10 years in this evolving economy, and having the experience of what is a startup and what is the risk behind the startup, grace to the egg accelerator, I'm pretty sure that we will be better support the community within the bank. We engage very early through egg accelerator. At this stage, the focus is enablement, helping founders build their products and to establish the right banking foundations from the beginning. As companies mature, venture banking becomes the bridge. This is where we support scale-ups with a non-dilutive capital and structured growth solutions, allowing them to extend runway and execute on milestones. And as companies reach institutional scale, the transition naturally into corporate and investment banking and capital markets, where we support refinancing with M&A activities, IPO, and other solutions. Beyond metrics and rankings, Greece innovation momentum owes much to the initiatives that gave the ecosystem its early scaffolding, long before it was visible on the international stage. This is where Eurobank chose to act decisively. As early as 2012, at the peak of the financial crisis, Eurobank recognized the urgency of bridging research and entrepreneurship, halting the brain drain and nurturing globally minded startups. In response, we launched EGG as an acronym of Enter, Grow, Go. What began as a corporate responsibility initiative has evolved into one of Europe's most recognized accelerators, now ranked by the Financial Times among the continent's leading hubs. Our mission was never transactional, it was transformational, to support, to give strategic collaboration, to bring together investors, and of course to support companies to expand. A footprint to the Greek economy is that more than 1,600 entrepreneurs had the opportunity to be supported by Eurobank and by the EGG Accelerator, supporting also global partnerships and also investment attraction, bringing together investors and, of course, mentors. EGG supports at every stage, from market entry and product development to investor matchmaking and scaling to commercial investment-ready ventures. A few years ago, the idea of turning academic research into a marketable product would often provoke strong resistance. Universities and research centers operated in parallel worlds with the enterprises. However, today that mindset is changing. Although Greece is not yet widely recognized as a prolific producer of spin-off companies, recent initiatives point to a growing shift toward commercialization and university-industry collaboration. We are scouting across 23 universities. We support more than 155 research teams, and we give the opportunity to those startups and research teams to get connected with venture capital funds and other mentors in Greece and abroad. A big ecosystem, giving space also to say a few words and closing this short presentation, is that the European tech transfer landscape is larger and more valuable than many realize. Combined spin-off value from universities and research centers that has grown to nearly 400 billion euros, and Europe produces a significant share of the world's top-cited research and patent activity. If Greek universities match European average spin-out creation, the impact on jobs and GDP would be transformative, adding an estimated 22,000 high-skilled jobs and 9.5 billion euros over a decade. But to capture the opportunity, we must solve our practical challenges. The IP management and licensing must be robust and pragmatic. We must foster a go-to-market culture inside universities and TTOs. We need stronger human and infrastructure resources and senior TTO staff with both technical and commercial experience. We need investor alignment, which is essential, early and open engagement with venture capital funds. And also, in conclusion, efficient technology transfer is not an academic luxury. It is a strategic engine for national innovation and economic recovery. By combining European best practices with local solutions, we have improved the quantity and the quality of Greek spin-offs, raise institutional reputations, and create meaningful partnerships across universities, industry, and investors. And we believe that Greece has all the ingredients, talent, trust, and growing appetite for transformation. Now is the time for bold collaboration across sectors, borders, and generations. And as Mario Draghi wisely noted, in today's world, even the largest countries can feel small. But through collective ambition and strategic unity, we can overcome fragmentation and position Greece where it deserves to be on the innovation map of tomorrow, together with France. And we can be also the powerhouse of innovation. So this is maybe a short presentation to start discussion. Thank you very much.
Please, Professor Samitas, if you want to.
Thank you so much for this lovely gathering today. I think, Mathieu, is a great initiative from your side and the Embassy of France to have the Franco-Hellenic Forum and Research Innovation today, discussing about all the stuff that we are so worried. So, answering the main question, which is what the universities are doing on that, and if we can identify how we can bridge the gap between academic research and innovation, I should say that the University of Athens and the Archimedes Center of Innovation and Entrepreneurship are doing a lot in order to bridge this gap. Why I'm saying that? Because we see technology transfer not simply as an administrative function, but as a strategic bridge between academic excellence and real economic social impact. Yesterday, I was in a lovely place by the mountain, having all the banks there, the representatives of National Bank of Greece, Eurobank, Alpha Bank, and Piraeus Bank, discussing about innovation within the university. And in this discussion, we have ended up to extremely amazing conclusions how to make this ecosystem bigger. So our relationship with private financing is, of course, getting increasingly important. Universities, as you know very well, produce knowledge, research, results, patents, software, prototypes, data-driven solutions, and very often highly talented teams. But for this knowledge to become innovation, it needs a pathway, protection to intellectual property, first of all, market validation, mentoring, good mentoring, proof of concept funding, access to industry, and eventually access to private capital. So this is particularly relevant to areas that we as a university are very interested in, like fintech, digital technologies, artificial intelligence, health innovation, energy transition, and deep tech, and so forth. So in fintech, for example, and I'm talking as a professor of finance, academic research can contribute to new solutions in digital payments, risk management, financial inclusion, cybersecurity, of course, red tech, blockchain application, and data analytics. But the transformation of research into from idea into a scalable venture requires more than a good scientific results, as you can understand. It requires a team, people, a market, and a business model. So understanding that we are lack of big investors, we are lack of a big market, we have to cooperate more to show how we can deal with this and to support an early stage, more technological risk. The first issue, in my view, in my perspective, is about the maturity of the market. Many university technologies are scientifically promising, but not ready for investment. They are often at an early stage, but private investors, as you know, they look for a clear evidence of product market fit and for better results. And this means that the university must help researchers to move from a publication logic that all of us are having as academic faculty to innovation logic without, of course, compromising academic freedom or scientific quality. The second issue is about culture. Do we really have the culture in this country about innovation? Researchers and investors are often speak different languages. Researchers, as you know, focus more on scientific originality, methodology, and long-term knowledge creation. This is how an academic faculty is involved in his whole life. And investors focus on scalability, timing risk, team capacity, and exit potential. A technology transfer office that Archimedes, that we are having in University of Athens, has to translate between these two different kinds of words. It must help researchers understand the market needs and at the same time help investors understand the value and the time horizon of research-based innovation. The third issue that I would like to focus on is about continuity. In Greece, you know, we have made important progress these years. The accelerators, venture capital funds, bank initiatives, European instruments, and a growing innovation ecosystem. However, the financing chain is still not always continuous. We have huge breaks. However, as you can understand, this makes a big gap between research funding and venture funding. So proof of concept, pre-seed capital, and patient capital for deep tech remain crucial in our case. This is exactly where cooperation with private actors, banks, corporates, venture funds, and international partners can make a real difference. That's why we are here. For Archimedes, the Center of Innovation at the University of Athens, the key objective is to help research teams become more mature before they approach private investors. They can understand the language of the markets, and this means supporting intellectual property strategy, spin-off creation. We already have 10 spin-offs already created, business mentoring, networking with companies and investors, and building the mindset, which is the most important thing within the university. In this context, cooperation with the French ecosystem, of course, my dear Mathieu, could be very valuable. That's why we are here, I guess. France has developed strong structures in technology transfer, public-private partnerships, deep tech, financing, and university-based entrepreneurship. There is room, of course, for practical collaboration, joint acceleration programs, investors matchmaking, co-development between Greek and French research teams. We already do that with the top research centers in France, and having French tech, as I say, or a Greek-French bridge within fintech, AI, cybersecurity, health, and energy. The broader point is that technology transfer is no longer a secondary university activity. In our mentality in University of Athens is the main thing. It is part of the university's mission. Universities must educate, produce research, but also contribute to innovation with the spin-offs and patents. So if I try to summarize and end up my presentation here, is that our relationship with private financing is not only about finding money for academic ideas, it is about building a complete innovation pathway. The main challenge is to make research investable with presenting its main scientific debt. And the reality is that within the universities in Greece, the research level is very high and we have so many things to present. And the opportunity, of course, especially in the Franco-Hellenic framework, is to connect complementary ecosystems so that excellent research can mature, scale up, and eventually create value for Greece, for France, and in Europe. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you, Mathieu, and the French Embassy and the French Institute for the invitation. My name is Spyros Arsenis. I'm the head of the Innovation Center of the National Bank of Greece. National Bank of Greece, not many people know that we used to be the central bank from 1841 to 1927. We used to print drachmas. After that, Bank of Greece was created, and in fact, it was created from a part of it was a spin-off of the National Bank of Greece, Bank of Greece. Since then, we started invested in ventures. In 1998, through a company with a subsidiary which name was NBGI Investments, I for investments. And in fact, our first CEO is Kyriakos Mitsotakis, who is now our Prime Minister. What we do in NBG Business Seeds, it's the continuation, the follow-on of what we started in 1998. And I will talk not about, we are part of the strategy general division of the bank, and I will take some time to talk about results, not a strategy. We were behind all the big Greek acquisitions, meaning Think Silicon, acquired by Applied Material, Augmenta, acquired by a subsidiary of Agnelli Group, Acusonus, acquired by Meta, and a lot of other startups. So we made a lot of money. As Roula said before, I totally agree. We started in 2010, 17 years ago, and we started with as a CSR activity. And we started invested directly in many startups. Our last investment was Pot a Wheel. And before that, we already invested in Blue Ground and many others. And we also invested in 32 venture capital and private equity funds. That makes us the biggest investor, not only in Greece, but the biggest investor in the region. We are more than 200 million under management, and we have an appetite. We continue to look for opportunities. That means that, as I said, what we started in 2010 at the beginning of the big financial crisis as a CSR activity, now it's a pure investment activity. We are running for the 17th year the Business Seeds Accelerator. This is the oldest accelerator in Greece, and it's one of the oldest in Europe. We have all these years, we have many awards, Greek and international. And as I said, we celebrated almost all the big exits of the Greek ecosystem. And our perception is very similar to what Roula and Aris said. Now, our main effort is to try to help and to support academia and researchers to start creating more and more spin-offs. For us, this is the big challenge of the next years. And that's where we are putting all our effort. We collaborate closely with Roula, with Guy, with Aris in many initiatives. We participate as limited partners in Big Buy 1, 2, and Big Buy Growth. We are running the Greek FinTech Hub with Aris and the Kapodistrian University of Athens. And we go hand by hand with Roula in many events, and we share the same vision. The vision is to scale up the Greek ecosystem, to create, among other things we did 10 years ago, Roula, we went to Paris with a mission created by the embassy, the French embassy. This was our first common, I think, and we must felicitate the French embassy. It's present all these years with many events and many joint ventures with the Greek ecosystem, trying to help us create bridges and also develop. So, to finish, what we hope is that in the next years the Greek ecosystem scales up, creates much more new places to work, brings much more capital to Greece through acquisitions, and makes our economy stronger and our country also stronger. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Spyros. Now, after having heard of, let's say, the Greek voices of the ecosystem, I wanted to hear from Guy, from the French Tech, from your vision of the Greek ecosystem. You have been here for some years, and you are an investor in the Greek ecosystem. You know the Greek ecosystem well, but you also know the French ecosystem. So perhaps you could tell us about your vision of the Greek ecosystem and what kind of best practices you see in the French ecosystem that are not yet implemented in Greece and that could be implemented in terms of financing, in terms of upscaling, in terms of everything that feeds the ecosystem.
So thank you for the invitation. So I'm Guy Krief, a partner at Big Buy Ventures. We're one of the largest multi-stage tech fund in the region. We currently have 280 million euro under management. We have a first early stage fund. We're now deploying capital from a second early stage fund, which is a 70 million euro fund. And we recently launched a growth later stage fund. I have on my left, my right, two of our investors. So I work for a Athens-based tech fund investing internationally, but I'm also president of La French Tech Athens, and I'm French, if you cannot tell from my accent. So a couple of remarks. I think, first of all, we need to be very clear that Greece has an amazing pool of talent coming from the universities. If you look at, for example, Horizon grants, Greek researchers are getting like almost double from what is the EU average. So they're working on, like top research. They're very high quality. And I think recent change in the legal framework with the tech transfer offices are a step in the right direction. Now, having said that, another thing you have in Greece is by now you have capital. If you go back 10 years, it was very, very hard to raise money. Now there is capital. Great work from the HDBI, 2 billion under management. Now that that there are many, many early stage funds. If you want to raise money, you can go, and if you're working on a good idea, most likely you will be raising funds from Greek investors. Now, I think if we're looking at what France did well in 2013 under the impulse of back then Minister of Economy Emmanuel Macron, La French Tech was created under the Ministry of Economy, and at the time what back then Minister Macron said was that innovation has to become a national priority. The idea is that they were understanding that other markets were going much faster. France was at risk of being left behind, and so La French Tech was created. The idea with La French Tech was to have a catalyst that will kind of coordinate everything that's happening around innovation and technology in France. What does that mean in practice? It means coordinating with BPI, the equivalent of HDBI in France, in how funds will be deployed. It means also working with the large corporation in France. So by now, most of the large French companies are working with French startups. They have tax incentives to do so. So they really go out there and look for innovation, and they try to adopt what's being done at the early stage level. But it also means having kind of, if you look at the coordination, it's the financing, then you have what happens with the large corporate, and then you also have what happens with the university. And one of the, I think, very successful organism that was created in France is something between the technology transfer offices and the private markets. They're called SAT, S-A-T-T. There are 23 of them, if I'm not mistaken. They're implemented regionally. And what they do is they really do this buffer between the university, academia world, and I think it's been mentioned earlier. I agree. It's very challenging from someone coming from the academia to go out there in the private in the business world. That's not what they've been doing all their life, and I think that's what allows them to be great researchers. And there needs to be a buffer to kind of help them get into the business world. And I'm going to tell you, us as a fund, when we see a team where we have 2 researchers, founders, we're very, very, very cautious. The reason being that we can trust them on the technology, but technology is not a product. There's a huge difference. You can have the best technology in the world. That doesn't mean that it answers a practical problem that your clients will want to solve. It doesn't mean you know how to price it. It doesn't mean you know how to sell it. The technology is it's the backbone. You need all the things around. So us as a fund, when we see 2 researchers alone as founders, we're very, very cautious. And we try to see whether, they understand that part of the equation, et cetera, et cetera. So to go back to your initial question, I think the thing that the Greek ecosystem, which has been doing tremendous, what has happened in Greece is amazing. Just if you look at last year in 2025, in Greece, you had 35% increase in funding rounds versus the previous year, while most of Europe stayed flat or went down. We started from very low in Greece, so obviously we're going fast, but tremendous things are happening. I think that to go a step further, it'd be great to have a physical point of reference, like Station F is in France. This helps a lot. To have a physical place where everybody is there, like investors, the states, the institutionals, the universities. It helps to have a physical place where everybody gathers. I think it will help to go one step further in helping the technology transfer. So maybe through SAT, maybe through something else. I think it will help to have the large corporate in Greece being more involved. Some of them are doing incredible things. If you look at what, for example, a company like Titan is doing or Metlen, they're doing great. We need to get the corporate closer to the research. That has to happen because they're the one absorbing it. they're really like, they'll be the best advocate. If you're a startup and you're going out and you're saying, Titan is already one of my clients, people will listen to you very seriously. And anywhere in the world, not in Greece, right? Titan is a New York Stock Exchange listed company. People will listen to you. So we need to get the entire ecosystem involved. And that has, in my view, that has to become a national priority. And one last thing, because we're talking here about France and Greece, in my view, where we stand right now, we should stop talking about France, we should stop talking about Greece, we should start speaking about Europe. We should forget national interest, as painful as it may be for Europe, because right now there's a race happening around AI. You have the US, you have China, and we cannot be at the mercy of someone deciding one day to cut us off from the latest frontier AI model, keeping it available for US citizens or US companies, and having Europe, that's called a kill switch, having Europe just not being able to use it anymore. We're at the mercy of that as a continent, and there should be a European solution to that, not a national one. It requires massive investment, data center. It's kind of happening. If you're asking me, it's not enough, and academia research is at the center of it. I mean, when you're working on an AI frontier model, the people working on it, that's not me. I don't think that's going to be you. It's people coming from the top universities, and we have the talent. So we absolutely, as Europe, I think I sound a little bit like the people at the beginning of COVID, but there should be a wake-up call. I'm personally thinking that we need like I call it in Greek technologiki epistratevsi. We need like the mobilization you have like in the same time as times of war. We, as Europe, we need to go all in to make sure that in 10 years we're not clients or colonies of people who own the frontier AI models. And academia research is at the very center of that.
Thank you so much. So as our time is about 10 minutes, I will ask from, let's say, each speaker. So first, Roula. So what do you think the forum and the Franco-Hellenic Forum could do? What could we implement as kind of measures, initiatives, further it? What could be lacking to allow for this sort of maturing of the ecosystem and bringing French contribution? What do you think we can do?
Firstly, to say that having already a 2 days event, that is the first step. The most important initiative that you, I think, under your leadership deliver is this B2B meetings. A B2B meeting is really very important to get closer to each other and one-to-one discussions on how we can bring 2 tasks, 3 things, a call to action after those panel discussions and talks. So B2B meetings, it is important. I think that you should continue with the second today event. However, in between the years, maybe we should bring in front of the audience 2, 3 issues, initiatives we can start. From my point of view, firstly, I agree with all the presenters and speakers. However, I would like to say that it takes not 2 to tango, it takes 3 to tango. Sorry for that. It's not the academia and the industry. You need also in this small ecosystem accelerators in order to support academia to express the business model and here, to be closer to the ears of the industry. You need investors to finance the academia project, the business project, in order for the company to deliver. So you need a smaller ecosystem in between these two, academia and how to commercialize from lab to market. You need also accelerators in order to explain how you can provide all the important answers to questions coming from the industry. So we need to do business days to bring together startups and corporates. At Eurobank, at the Egg Accelerator, we are running a lot of business days, having 2 to 3 corporates with 6 to 7 to 8 startups. So that might be also a collaboration together with you. B2B meetings, of course, and to talk more and to spread the message of how we can collaborate together.
Thank you. And same question, but perhaps with the angle of university and sort of a cooperation with French universities. What could be done? What are your expectations?
Thank you for that. First of all, I completely agree with all my colleagues here, but I have to say that in Europe, the difference is that people first. And people first for us means universities first. We have to produce knowledge. What does the US, that's why it's leading, and China is they produce knowledge. And knowledge is produced within the research centers, the universities, and after they get funded. So funding is a big issue, but is secondary. First is to produce new knowledge, to be competitive. Europe doesn't produce any kind of new ideas and is always lagging behind of US and then China and then India, of course, and all these big countries. So first of all, we have to be competitive within the universities, and then we seed capital. Of course, as far as capital is concerned, I know that we're going to have a very strong cooperation, and we can rely on the VCs, on the banking system, and all this stuff. And of course, within Europe and all together, but again, first people, and first of all, our students, because our students will be out there in the market and they have to be competitive and understanding that the world is changing. The economy is changing. Everything is changing. And people still believe that the infrastructure and the way the markets works is 20 years ago. And I'm talking as a finance professor, and I'm a guy that knows how markets work very well and how the capital funding and all this stuff coming and from where coming. And the added value can come only from doing research. And it's not only a research to be a product. A research is, of course, can be a product and having a value, but research is for making people's life better. And this is what we try in Europe for centuries. And this is the difference in between the continents. And I'm sorry to say that, but still in Europe, the leadership is lagging behind. And this is what France can help the Europeans and Greece in order to change the mentality. As far as the university cooperations, I have to say that all the Greek universities and the University of Athens works very close with Sorbonne, with all the big universities in France, doing research and all this stuff. Of course, we have to transfer all these into the market and create value again for the people and not for the banks.
Thank you so much. Spyros.
Thank you. I think for me the main challenge is we have the human capital, we all agree. We have structures to create a good business plan. We have Archimedes, we have Egg, we run the oldest accelerator in the country with good results. what we don't have, and that's where France can help us a lot, is we don't have skilled people who can do sales and marketing abroad Greece. Greece is a very small market, so after the proof of concept in Greece, we have to go abroad to scale up. We cannot, because we don't have enough people who knows how to sell and how to market, how to do marketing. So for me, this is the main gap we have in the Greek ecosystem. And I think this could be a point of collaboration with the French ecosystem.
Thank you. And Guy, perhaps you were talking about creating a place, the one single place, but if you have maybe another idea or maybe something that we should do, in the framework of this forum, is there something that, in the next years to come, one thing that we could do that could be decisive? Yes.
Look, one of the things that, in our view, at least as a tech fund, one of the things that we're missing right now in Greece, and France can help, and I will explain, is we don't have enough yet world-class, top-quality founders. And the reason being, there are great ones, we just don't have enough. Today, you're in a situation where there's more capital than founders. And the reason is very simple. The ecosystem is quite new. I mean, to have top-quality founders, usually, if you look at the stats, a top-quality founder, if you take a picture of the average top-quality founder in Europe, that's someone who went to ETH in Zurich, got a PhD or something, went for 3-4 years, worked for a global tech company, and then became a founder. And these two things are very important, like was at the top university, then got some knowledge from a top world-class company, and then became a founder. And obviously, we can produce talent here, but it's not like, there are not that many people in Greece as of today who can work in these top companies, etc. So one of the things that at least us as a fund and me in my quality of president at La French Tech Athens, one of the things that we're doing is we're purposely investing in French companies. And as part of our investment, we require them to have top R&D being done in Greece. And why we want to do that, the reason why we're doing that is that we believe that if we keep doing this, we're kind of like cultivating the top founders of tomorrow by having people working in R&D, in engineering in Greece for French companies that are selling to the US and are selling everywhere. And we think that this is putting the seeds of having more founders tomorrow. So, one of your initial question was like, how do we bridge more? I think we need to give more high-level signals of the cooperation that will pull the ecosystem towards kind of like, going on that bridge more often. I think Mistral coming in the fall of 2025 was a great signal to like showing that there is a real bridge between the two countries. It's great. Right now there are 2 pilots that are taking place with Mistral's technology in Greek ministries. It's 5 or 10. I don't remember. There's a number of students right now, top students from I think it's from Polytechnio. I'm not sure, that are going and are getting trained by Mistral in France, and then will start having a career in Mistral. This could be tomorrow's founders for Greece. So I think we need more kind of like, high-level signals like that of the relationship between the two countries to get access to great talent to France and get access to a wider market and, more funding and great companies to Greek founders. And a Greek Station F, for example, could be a great step in that direction.
to add on this, rather than discussing and talking about brain gain or brain drain or else, I think that we should embrace brain circulation, what Guy have told right now. So to create bridges, to seek Greek companies to open a firm also in France, and also French companies to open a legal entity in Greece, targeting different districts. I mean, the MENA region, GCC region, might be easier for French companies to do that from Greece, from Cyprus, instead of from France, and vice versa, if Greek companies need to tackle, let's say, Nordics or Baltics, etc. So this creating bridges between the countries, I think this brain circulation should help and add value to companies and, of course, to the ecosystems.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for listening to us. And well, I think there are many ideas. We will note them down and try to act on it. Thank you so much.